Here's Brody Brazil.
You know, it's crazy right now in the Bay Area how history is largely repeating itself as it relates to Major League Baseball, a local team, and the potential of relocation. Now, I understand the demographics here on my YouTube channel might skew a bit younger, and a lot of you didn't live through this, may not remember it, or even know about it or understand it, but yeah, the San Francisco Giants, if you can believe it, at one point were not only rumored to be gone, like, watch this story. A lot of people thought they were officially out the door after 1992.
Campaigns to leave cold, windy Candlestick. We heard people ask, why build a stadium for a wealthy man like Bob Lurie? Well, Bay Area voters didn't. The people in Florida did. Angrily slapping a baseball into his mitt, restaurant owner, sports fan, and political activist Ed Moose tried to explain what happened, how we let the Giants get away.
We lost them by a lack of will, by inept politicians.
Mayor Feinstein's efforts to build a ballpark. Proposition W lost by 5,000 votes.
This ballpark will earn money for the city.
Mayor Agnos tried in 1989 a stadium near China Basin, but it too was defeated by 2,000 votes. Bob Lurie tried on the Santa Clara Giants cap in 1990, but a regional ballpark plan involving several cities failed. San Jose tried to build a stadium, but even with $30 million from Bob Lurie, couldn't overcome.
We'll go from here. Thank you and good night.
Essentially, Bob Lurie's last public words since the 16,000 vote loss. Some say the man just wanted to end the misery of multiple defeats.
I think Bob Lurie, like a lot of people, is tired of politics in San Francisco.
I'm not doing the kind of show I've done for my entire life. Today, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm participating at a wake or something like that.
Politicians, labor leaders, restaurant owners, business people, they all came to the mayor's office, members of one more hastily assembled task force to try to save the Giants.
Isn't that crazy? Knowing what we know now and where their home is and the success they've had. And this is the final game of the 1992 season, 27th of September. Oh, there's a young kid who doesn't look happy about his baseball team potentially leaving. You know who that kid is? It's a kid from Pleasanton. His name is Brandon. Brandon Crawford, who's been now the longtime Giants shortstop. Mr. White, do what's right. Keep the Giants in San Francisco. Brandon Crawford attending, getting goosebumps here, the final, what they thought was the final Giants game ever before the team was out the door to Tampa Bay. St. Pete, technically. And so it's interesting to revisit this all now looking back and after it's long been forgotten and see where the A's are at. I mean, Tampa, my goodness, they had an agreement to purchase the team. You're about to hear that. They had 30,000 season tickets reserved. They had jersey mock-ups. They already had a stadium built, ready to go, like the definition of turnkey. And then things changed here in San Francisco. Watch this from KPIX. It's an interview.
And he called me up one day to say he was selling the team to people from Tampa Bay. And, those are the saddest words I think I ever heard. And I said to myself, I'm not sure I could live with myself if I did nothing to try to keep the Giants here. I wasn't at all optimistic that we'd be able to pull this off. But I knew myself well enough to know that if I didn't participate in the effort to try and keep them here, I'd have a tough time living with myself.
It's Tampa.
And sometimes I think how close we came to really referring to this team as the Tampa Bay Giants. I mean, they were sold to people from Tampa Bay.
Are you getting goosebumps again? Because I am. I mean, we are literally in such a similar spot. Different details, but overall big picture of where the A's are at right now. And I think as you look back at different big league teams over the years, if we're just pointing at, attendance and they're struggling, what if Atlanta had their team moved through the entire 70s or even into the late 80s? This is like before they were a dominant franchise of the 90s and into the 2000s. Seasons where they average, and that number, after Fulton County Stadium, that number is the average game attendance. 9,000, up to 12,000 in 74, down to 6,000, 10,000. I mean, Baseball didn't move them, and look at here in 2023. They're the 5th highest attendance team in baseball. They average almost 40,000 a night this year in Atlanta. And this is for 2 stints. I mean, an entire decade of the 70s. They didn't move them out of there. In fact, Atlanta was moved to there. Then the 80s obviously struggles there too. 10, 12,000 a night. And it's not just Atlanta. How about Houston? This season averaging 38,000, 7th most in baseball. But back in the day, in the Astrodome, it got kind of bleak when the 90s hit. 16,000, 14,000. But then you can also see how it went up for a couple years. My point is, what if baseball was quick to act on these teams too, back in the day? And I don't know their histories during these spans, and I don't know what else was going on. I know what's going on in Oakland. Teams aren't being retained. It's an aging stadium. There's a lot more going on in Oakland than simply winning and losing maybe in some of these places. And then there's Miami. Look at the late 90s into the 2000s. 15,000, 10,000 in 2002. On average, they didn't even draw 1 million fans in 2002. And then now with a new ballpark, Lone Depot Park, it's about 10 years old, 10,000, 10,000, 7,000, and 11,000 per game. Right now, they are the 29th ranking team in MLB attendance, only ahead of the Oakland A's, and they've got a brand new ballpark. So my point here is nobody's clamoring for the Marlins to move. I don't want to suggest that they do. I'm on the defense of them, just like the A's. But the point is that if we're just looking at attendance and saying, well, fans don't show up, this has happened a lot over baseball. And I just chose a couple teams, 2 of them that have rebounded, and this one that continues to not do well. I mean, 1999 was only, is that 6 years after they came into the league? Were they 93? When baseball expanded to Miami or Florida and Colorado? So the point here is, baseball could have cut these teams off and made them move. But baseball just doesn't do it very often. Here are the last 5 relocations: 65, 67, 69, 71. Milwaukee to Atlanta, Kansas City to Oakland. I mean, literally, that was the 4th relocation ago, and now it's the A's on the conversation plate again. Seattle to Milwaukee. The pilots were only in existence for 1 year. It's kind of a mistake that baseball made. Gave Milwaukee a team back. But 4 years later, Washington Senators to become the Texas Rangers in 71, then nothing until 2004. And here we are, 20 years later? And this is under consideration. 1 relocation, the Expos to become the Nationals in the last 51 years. So, you understand this doesn't happen very often. Baseball's not quick to do this. I don't know, this one maybe feels different for some reason, but maybe it'll turn out similar to what history has presented here in relation to the Giants. You made it here to the end of the video. I appreciate that. Thumbs up down below. And don't forget, subscribe to this channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.